Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be making a video about changing the fan in my new power supply. I grabbed this Meanwell LRS 350-24 off of Amazon. I'm starting to ramp up projects on my 3D printer and I needed something with more current draw and more current output, power output. But yeah, so I grabbed this. It can output 350 watts or 15 amps of current. And I wanted to go ahead and change out the cooling fan on it to a more quieter fan. The stock fan isn't terrible, but I wanted a quieter fan like a Noctua. Now, if you've ever changed a cooling fan before, you've probably opted to go for a Noctua fan and noticed that they have only 12 volt and 5 volt versions, whereas this power supply is a 24 volt version. And that can cause some issues. But luckily this power supply in particular has an internal step down from 24 volts to 12 volts, which powers the cooling fan. So it's easy to just plug and play a Noctua fan in there. And I wanted to make this video to actually check the sound differences and if it's a good idea to change to the new fan or if it's more work than it's worth. So we're going to jump into that. One downside of switching to the Noctua fan is that the stock fan has a much slimmer profile than the Noctua fan. The Noctua fan is 25 millimeters thick, whereas the stock fan is 15 millimeters thick. Due to this larger form factor, the Noctua isn't just a drop-in replacement, you need to make some kind of modifications so that the fan can fit. I was checking out Printables.com and I wasn't really pleased with the lids that I was seeing. I really wanted to keep the sticker that shows what port is which, and just keep the metal lid. I also didn't want to have too much extra hardware to use on top of everything. So I designed this quick adapter. It's just like a rectangle that sits in the base. You use the stock screws to screw the lid into the adapter, and then you just use 4 M3 screws and 4 M3 nuts to mount the adapter on. In a future project, I might choose to modify the adapter so that I can include my Relay V1.2 in there. If you don't know what that is, check out my last video in the top right, whichever side that is. And yeah, basically it helps you control your printer's power, which is really cool. I also grabbed this power switch from, I think the brand was called 3D Man on Amazon. It's really cool because it has only 3 wire outputs on the back of it, whereas you've seen more complicated wiring on the back of others. And that just makes things a bit easier and a bit more straightforward. I've left the link to that down in the description. If you do buy one, then I would be careful because on mine, the neutral wire and the live wire were actually switched around. And you really don't want to have to deal with the issues that can cause. Along with the switch, I'll have all the other things I used in this video down in the description. There are Amazon affiliate links, but don't feel obliged to use them. Now enough of me, let's go ahead and jump into the actual testing of the noise of these 2 different fans and kind of talking about whether we should upgrade the fan or not. So one of the features of this power supply made testing both fans a little difficult. Basically, the power supply's fan doesn't kick up until the power supply reaches a certain temperature. Now, I didn't want to figure out how to either apply enough load to the power supply or heat up the power supply enough to get the fan going, because I think that would interfere with the actual sound test of things. So what I ended up doing was powering a 24 volt to 12 volt DC buck converter from the 24 volt output power supply. This buck converter then powered the fan at 12 volts. So we should be powering the fan the same exact way that the power supply will. It's just taking a slightly different path to get there. One cool thing about this that I didn't originally plan for was that we could actually see the current draw of both of these fans and compare that too. Now, the way I compared sound between the 2 fans was to check the audio gain levels inside of my editing software. Go ahead and listen to them one at a time and, build your own opinion on whether there's a huge difference or not. In the clip of the stock fan, the noise levels were sitting at around -27 dB, whereas in the Noctua fan clip, they were sitting around -30. I feel like their noise profiles were different. I feel like the Noctua had a lot more lower frequency noise, where the stock fan had some more high frequency noise. So it's at least more of a pleasing sound, even if it's not actually that much quieter. This obviously isn't a very robust test, and isn't exactly how noise levels are measured, but these are the results that I managed to get. So on to why the Noctua fan does seem to run quieter. One thing is that it's obviously designed to be quieter and run quiet, that's what they're known for, but also I realized that the stock fan runs at 4,500 revolutions per minute, whereas the Noctua fan runs at 3,000 RPM. The obvious conclusion is that there's going to be a difference in the capabilities of the Noctua fan to cool over the stock fan. I decided to compare the vendor provided information. On the stock fan's website, it says that it has an acoustic noise of 36.6 decibels, where the Noctua fan has 19.3 decibels, so that's almost a factor of 2 different. The stock fan pushes 22.18 cubic feet per minute, where the Noctua fan pushes 17.2 cubic feet per minute. So a little bit of loss, about 25% loss on the Noctua for how much airflow it's pushing, but for 1500 RPM difference, I don't think that that's too crazy. The stock fan does have a higher static pressure of 3.8 millimeters H2O, whereas the Noctua has 2.18 millimeters. This is important for a case like an air filter, where you really need to suck air through that filter, so you're gonna need more of that static pressure. In terms of current draw, the stock fan claims to pull 0.13 amps, where the Noctua fan claims to pull 0.08 amps. This translates to 1.56 watts of power for the stock fan, and 0.96 watts of power for the Noctua fan. While there is a reduced amount of airflow from the Noctua fan, I still feel like it's going to cool the power supply perfectly fine. So yeah, if you don't care about noise, then go ahead and stick with the stock fan. It's going to cool your power supply, and it's really not that loud. But if you do want to make your printer as quiet as possible, then I would say go for the Noctua fan. If you have issues with the size or the profile, or you just want a different fan, you could always design an adapter for a different kind of fan, like this 92mm Noctua fan. And yeah, you might get better cooling and quieter operation from a larger fan, but it's up to you. Let me know down in the comments if you thought the Noctua fan was quieter, or if you think that upgrading your power supply's fan is kind of a waste of time. I will be comparing how it affects noise when the whole 3D printer is running in a future video where I upgrade the electronics in my printer. So if you're interested in seeing that, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned, keep up with my videos. And yeah, if you've got any feedback or you think I did something wrong, let me know. I'm always happy to talk to people in the comments. But anyways, I will see you next time. Bye.